ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममान्तानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रम् अथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. The first mantra of the first section of Kena-Upanishad had the question, the very significant question, probing or exploring the possibility of something, some principle, some truth that is not involved at all in any of the layers of our personality, and yet it could be the basis of the functioning of all the layers of our personality. Behind the mind thinking, behind the eyes seeing, behind the pranas moving about energetically or making others move apparently, behind all actions, organs of action, doing their respective actions. Is it possible behind all these functions there is something which is actually the cause in a sense and not a cause at all in another sense? This is difficult to convey indeed. Therefore, the Guru in this Kena-Upanishad uses an unusual language. In the second mantra, which was the answer from the preceptor, it was said, there is indeed such a truth, such a dimension to the existence of every one of us that can be described as the ear of the ear, shrotrasya shrotram, manaso manoyat, vachoha vacham, sau pranasya pranaha, chakshusas chakshuhu, atimuchya dhira, pretyasma lokad amrita bhavanti. There is something which is the ear of the ear, mind of the mind, speech of the speech, eye of the eye, and so on. And this is not just poetry. By knowing this truth, one can attain immortality. One can conquer death. That's a tall claim. By merely knowing something, one can conquer death. Yes, because this business of dying also is part of erroneous perception. Nobody really dies. You and I don't have to fear death at all. Therefore, Swami Vivekananda had said in his lectures, if there is one thing that is taught in the Upanishads, that is fearlessness. Abhihi, he says. The message of Abhihi. Bhihi means fear. Abhihi means one who has no fear. In the very opening verses of Saddarshanam, Sri Ramana Maharshi raises the issue of fear of death. Those who are afraid of dying take shelter in Shiva, who is known to be the conqueror of death, Mrityunjaya. And as they take shelter at the feet of Lord Shiva, something happens to them. They realize that the very entity that was afraid of dying actually dies first. In the existence of you and me, there is a false I which is all the time afraid of death or disease or old age or financial loss or something. And that is the false I. The Vedanta tells us we have a true I. If we know who we truly are, then that's the end of the false I. Therefore, with much poetry, but more important than poetry, with much appeal of solid truth realized by masters after masters, Maharshi Ramana says, if you take shelter in Mrityunjaya Shiva, your ego first meets with Mrityu. When the ego dies, the real you will discover that you can never die. Therefore, it is all about exposing a false I that somehow gets constructed, that somehow gets built out of thoughts arising out of erroneous perception. After the second mantra, apparently, many students, if not all, were just not able to grasp what the teacher had said. Therefore, the third mantra proceeds, which we shall take up in this fourth session on Kena-Upanishad, with the special attention to vākya-bhāshya, the second commentary that Sri Adi Shankaracharya wrote, and that third mantra goes like this. Let's open the first slide also for those who are watching or listening to this class to actually see the mantra. The third mantra of the first section, 1.3, answers the jidnasa, the desire to know about how we could reach the self. We want to realize the self. We want to know the self. We want to get hold upon this pure self which the Vedanta is talking about. How do we do it? And the Rishi seems to pour cold water on your enthusiasm when he says, Na tatra chakshur gacchati. Your eyes cannot reach the pure self. Na vāg gacchati. Your speech also cannot hold in its grasp the pure self. No manaha, not even the mind. Therefore, chakshu representing all the organs of perception, eyes are representative of organs of perception, jnanendriyas. Vāg, which is speech, is representative of all the five organs of action. Vakpani padapayu upasthani, we say. Speech, hands, feet, and so on. And if both the groups of organs, indriyas, Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas, organs of perception and organs of action are dismissed, that it's beyond their reach to know the pure self, any one of us would imagine, yes, we knew that it has to be reached by a mind, by a pure mind. The mantra says, no mana, not even by the mind. This becomes really very puzzling. However, with the help of competent teachers, any student can figure out what is meant by all these puzzling statements. So we will elaborate on it with some lines from Shānkarabhāshya's vākya-bhāshya too. But before that, having shown here this third mantra, the second part may be quickly dealt with. Na vidmaha, na vijanimaha. We don't know this. We do not really have an idea how this may be taught to students. In other words, this mantra apparently expresses utter helplessness about knowing the pure self, apparently, not really. Really, this mantra helps us actually know the self while letting go of usual ways by which we know things. We see names and we see forms and colors with eyes. With eyes you can see forms, round or triangular or cylindrical and various shapes. Colors, red and blue and green and yellow and so on. But that way you cannot know the self. With speech, with hands, with feet, we do things. Those ways have no use in self-knowledge. So when the mind also is dismissed, what is meant is, again, in 9,999 ways among 10,000 ways, the mind actually goes about knowing things by taking the shape of what is to be known. Thought takes the form of a pot if knowledge of pot is required. Ghata has to be known. Ghatakara vritti is assumed by our mind stuff. If we need to know a flower, pushpakara vritti, the mind stuff assumes the shape of a flower and knowledge of flower then dawns upon us. Now, can we apply that to the pure self? Can we say, okay, in order to know the pure self, the mind will assume the shape of the pure self. The pure self has no shape. The pure self has no boundaries. The pure self has no color, no movement, no guna, no jati, no kriya. It doesn't belong to a certain category. And therefore, 9,999 out of 1,000, 10,000 ways of operating fail here. 1 out of 10,000 ways is for the mind to let go of its usual exercise. When the mind becomes quiet, when the mind turns inward, when the mind, let's put it another way, realizes that this pure self is not something to be objectified. To know the pure self is actually through being the self. The very first shloka of Saddarshanam of Sri Ramana Maharshi therefore says, how do we know the pure self? Tat pratyaya kinnu vihaya santam hridyesha chinta rahito hridakyah katham smaramastamameyamekam tasya stitir. The only way to know it is you be it. That's the answer given. Be the self, then you know the self. Everywhere else, you know something by mind assuming that form, even if it's emotion. Tasya smritihi tatra dridhaiva nishtha is the answer in the fourth line. Katham smaramastamameyamekam tasya smritihi. And smriti here is tasya jnanam. Tasya jnanam. Knowing the pure self, knowing Sat is tasya smritihi tatra dridhaiva nishtha. Nishtha is just to be. And that to be is not a tamasic affair where you just say, okay, I don't know this. I'll just be. Resign with some kind of negative feeling. No, it is out of proper Shastra Chintana, proper contemplation upon what the Upanishads are saying, that one clearly understands that the pure self can in no way be objectified. And understanding that it can never be objectified, one just stays, letting go of the last trace of attempt to objectify the pure self. Then one just stays. Tatra dridha eva nishtha is possible thanks to deep understanding. In the last class, we had quoted Francis Lucille, a certain teacher of great realization, who lives in San Diego or near San Diego, California. And his emphasis was enlightenment consists in deep understanding of what we are not. Otherwise, some way or the other, we embrace yet another image of what we are. One more false I. Let go of all false I. You want to imagine, I think now I know what the self is. Aha, at last I know. Till yesterday I did not know. Now I know. Who is this who says I know? That will be another image. My neighbor doesn't know, the other student doesn't know, that teacher doesn't know, I only know. You have again drawn another dividing line. Any such image of being the knower would spoil the show, would throw a spanner in the work, as the idiom goes. Be careful. There is no need to certify yourself. There is no need to beg for a certificate from others. Understand deeply what you are not. I am a failure. I have not succeeded in this Atma Anveshana. I guess I have wasted my life trying to go for self-realization. The mind plays so many tricks. Or sometimes giving some optimism to us. I think I have come very near. After listening to these Kena-Upanishad lectures, I guess finally I have come very near. So one who comes near, one who has a long way to go, one who has failed, all that is yet another image. The pure I cannot be described. No, the mischief played by thought, by creating yet another image, yet another self-description, or someone said it is self-judgment. Moment you judge, moment you pigeonhole yourself as more fortunate or less fortunate, more blessed or less blessed than somebody else or than how you were before. Gone. So, avoiding any conclusion, any judgment, silently realize that you are that. Therefore, in the vākya-bhāshya on this third mantra, there are many things said. We will take a look at the second slide now, where Adi Shankara highlights something very crucial. The mantra which said, Natatra Chakshur Gacchati. First of all, why is it said at all? It is answered, Natatra Chakshur Gacchati iti. Uktepi. Though the second mantra had said, Shrotrasya Shrotram and so on, Paryanuyoge Hetu. Why were some students again asking, what exactly is the self? So, why did they ask? They asked because they did not understand what was said. Apratipattehe. Pratipatti means understanding. Pratipadyate. Pratipattihi. Pratipattihi is understanding. Apratipatti. And therefore, even though Shrotrasya Shrotram was said, some people did not understand, and then therefore, Natatra Chakshur Gacchati iti. That portion, that mantra begins. Atma Tattve Apratipannatvat. Since the student who is again asking has not understood the Atma Tattva, Sukshmatva Hetoho Vastunaha, because this Vastu here implies this truth that needs to be understood. Sukshmatva Hetoho, because it is extremely subtle. If something is gross, anybody can lay one's hands upon it. But it is extremely subtle. Puna puna paryanu yuyuksha karanam aha. In the Bhashya, if you are paying attention to the words, there was this word in the first line shown here, pari anu yoga. Repeatedly asking and wondering, what is this? I don't get it, and so on. And pari anu yoga. In place of yoga, if you were to use a desiderative, that means sannanta, that means a form where not the action itself, but wanting to do that action, that's called desiderative. Not a complicated thing, don't think this is very difficult. You see, panam. Panam means drinking. Pipasa means wanting to drink, that is thirst. Jnanam means knowing. Jidnasa is wanting to know. Bhojanam is eating. Bubuksha is hunger. What is hunger? Wanting to eat. When you are hungry, you want to eat. Right? Like that, Paryanu Yoga is asking again and again. Paryanu Yuyuksha is the tendency to ask again and again. Why does it happen? The Acharya says, I am not surprised. Because you guys, in spite of being told so much, again want to, knowingly or unknowingly, you want to make the pure self an object of your sense organs. You see, let me tell you frankly, lots of people in these days study Vedanta. Many join ashrams, become brahmacharis, swamis, and so on. But over the years, I have seen personally that many of them are namesake Vedantis. They do not really take Vedanta serious. In fact, they get a little tired of Vedanta. Therefore, they go for this upasana, that tantra, this mantra, you know, this healing, that exercise, which can give to them some instant benefits, which can improve their health, which can improve their voice, which can improve their memory, which can make them more efficient in work. So they say we are Vedantis, but their heart is in so many techniques and exercises which seem to give some quicker results. Therefore, then there are teachers who are not Vedantis who straight away give techniques only. Do this technique and find how discover how your memory improves. Do this technique and see how your stress levels reduce. Do this technique and you will find how you will be so cheerful. And large numbers of people sign up for those programs. We have nothing against them. But if they tomorrow become more mature, they will look back and smile at all the time, energy, and money they had spent upon getting more cheerful, getting more energetic, getting more dynamic, more efficient, getting better health, etc. They will smile at it. We never say those things were an utter waste. Who doesn't want to be healthier? Who doesn't want to sleep less? Who doesn't want to have great energy to speak or do something for hours and hours? Today's Times of India, I read as I was on a flight back to Bombay from Bangalore. N.R. Narayana Murthy in a certain special video interview, I guess, conversation with, I think, Mr. Mohandas Pai or so. It was reported in Times of India, and I liked it in a way. At a certain level, it's a wonderful thing to know. Narayana Murthy, who is a visionary, who built this Infosys, took it to great heights, and not only he became super rich, a large number of people, Indians, mostly Indians, some non-Indians also got jobs, but a large number of Indians can tell you their story of rags to riches. They were from middle class, not really rags, but I use the idiom. They were from middle class, sometimes lower middle class also. But now they are millionaires because Narayana Murthy's industrious nature, he and a couple of other people. So in his interview, he says, all young people in India, he says, all young professionals, IT or other ways, should put in 10 hours per day of work. Nowadays, the tendency sometimes is 8 hours also are hard. Why can't I work just 6 hours and so on, 5 hours a day? Many people have that longing to work less and make money. Narayana Murthy says 10 hours. If majority of young women and men in India work 10 hours per day, 70 hours per week, that's what he says, then India can get ahead. Otherwise, certain other countries will overtake. Between countries also there is such tough competition, you see. So how are we to do it? Techniques, there are techniques whereby your pranas get more active. Without going long on that, the Vedanta is not about going from inefficiency to efficiency, which has a place in the whole scheme of life. It is about ending sorrow. Therefore, the Acharya says, Natatra chakshur gacchati. Earlier you were sad that you could work only 3 or 4 hours and then you were getting tired. You wanted to go to cafeteria, take a cup of coffee, and from there itself you felt like going home. You are fed up of work, no energy, no enthusiasm, no cheerfulness, no vitality. On the contrary, you are pulling on, you are pushing yourself through hours and hours of work. But then you say, hey, after doing this technique, that breathing technique, this exercise, this meditation, this visualization, nowadays, I work 8 to 10 hours and still I have energy. So you had one image of your being hopeless before. Now you have another image of your being on top of the world. Vedanta is about being free from any image. You are neither low nor high, and you are the pure self. With regard to an image of yourself, which is dynamic, energetic, cheerful, and great leader, etc., chakshur gacchati, manaha gacchati. You can see that. How there was a time when you were alcoholic, you used to smoke so much, you were suicidal. So, Dean Ornish was suicidal. Dean Ornish wanted to die. He was a medical student. This American doctor whose work on reversing diabetes through right diet, yoga, meditation, etc. Dean Ornish. Please check on net. Dean, D-E-A-N, Ornish, O-R-N-I-S-H. He was about to commit suicide because I guess he got into some drugs and all kinds of. He was a medical student. Then he came across Swami Satchidananda Saraswati, a Guru Bhai of Swami Chinmayananda ji. Swami Satchidananda Saraswati went to America, was giving lectures, conducting satsangs. A young medical student, Dean Ornish, who was so morose, heard Satchidananda, interacted with Satchidananda. Swami Satchidananda gave him certain techniques and yogic exercises. Rest is history. Eventually, Dean Ornish had clients like Bill Clinton, who came for their improvement of health and so on. So, it has a place, we do not deny, but going from poverty to richness, bad health to good health, going from being moody always to be very cheerful and what is that word? Always enthusiastic. That is okay, but that's not the end of life. That's not the end. That's not the finals. Then what? Then what? You will have a certain unrest. You will have a certain dissatisfaction. You will have a certain sense of incompleteness. Even if you become very rich and very energetic, very enthusiastic, etc. For fundamentally, you are chakshur gacchati. You are attached to a certain image of your own. And as long as you are attached to a certain image of your own, you are inviting sorrow. And so this sentence is very significant. Sooner the better, you must Learn to appreciate yourself as alert silence. I am neither the poor performer nor the high performer. I am the witness. This is a quantum leap. Vedanta is essentially about quantum leap. About quantum leap means unthinkably you are here and then you are there. You don't even succeed in tracing the path. That's what is called quantum leap. A subatomic particle like an electron goes from one energy level to another energy level, and physics has proved that the electron did not travel through an intermediate energy level. Therefore, it's called a quantum leap. Like from 10, you go to 25. You are never at 11 or 13, 15 or 17. One moment you are at 10, another moment you are at 25. That's a quantum leap. Like that, whole life you are judging yourself, evaluating yourself as poor performer or high performer, in a good mood or in a bad mood. You keep saying, this morning I was in such bad mood, but I don't know how. By afternoon I was so cheerful. Vedanta says, in the morning also you are the pure self, in the afternoon also you are the pure self. In his beautiful talk, Swami Sarvapriyananda, when he spoke at the 100th anniversary celebration of Sri Ramanashramam in New York, Sri Ramanashramam completed 100 years. There were functions at many places. One function was in New York in the Flushing Ganesha Temple in Queens, New York. That was the venue. The hall was used there, and Sarvapriyananda also spoke. There he says very wittily, you may control the mind, you may calm the mind, do some exercise, do some meditation, your mind becomes calm. But please know, even when your mind was agitated, you were the self. And now your mind has become calm, you are the self. So what is the use then of calming the mind? When there is jnana, calming the mind has become unimportant. It is superfluous. It is irrelevant. Whether you put whether you put on a T-shirt which says I am a fool, and then you put on a T-shirt which says I am wise. You are not what your T-shirt says. Let the T-shirt say anything it wants. You are what you are. So Vedanta is, very different from what we are ordinarily used to. Because, let me not to go too long on this, we are so used to becoming. I was like this and now I have become like this. Vedanta is not about becoming. Vedanta is about seeing what I was, what I am, and what I will be. Therefore, Shankaracharya says in this selected portion, Tatra Shrotradi Atma Bhute, the Saptami Vibhakti means, in the matter of that which is the very self of ears, eyes, etc. Shrotranam Atma Bhuta. Shrotradinam Atma Bhuta is implied. That is, it is the pure, it is the self behind the ears. Therefore, it's called ear of the ear. It's the self behind eyes. It's the self behind mind. Shrotradi Atma Bhute, in with respect to the Brahman, Chakshuradini na Vijnanam Utpadayanti. That's the main sentence. Chakshuradini, eyes, ears, etc., cannot generate right understanding. Eyes cannot get the knowledge of Brahman. Ears cannot get the knowledge of Brahman. Mind also cannot get the knowledge of Brahman. I already clarified. in its 9,999 ways. There is a one way out of 10,000 where the mind, out of intelligence, lets go of its attempt to objectify. If the mind can do that, then in the mind there is an understanding. Therefore, Kena-Upanishad does have a line, Manasa eva idam aptavyam. Manasa eva idam aptavyam. It's through the mind only you realize Brahma, it says. And the same Kena-Upanishad elsewhere says it cannot be known through the mind. So when the Upanishad says the self cannot be known through the mind, that refers to 9,999 ways of the mind in which you and I are caught. And when Upanishad says Manasa eva idam aptavyam, it is through the mind only that you know Brahman. It refers to the one out of those 10,000 ways in which the mind operates. So Chakshuradini Vijnanam na utpadayanti. By Chakshuradini, what is meant is Sarva Indriya Upalakshanarthatvat. That means 5 Jnanendriyas and 5 Karmendriyas, Mana Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, all of them are implied. Then a question arises, okay, if eyes and all the Jnanendriyas cannot gain knowledge of Brahma, if speech and all the 5 Karmendriyas cannot gain knowledge of Brahma, we understand. See, something like satisfaction, happiness, we see on a daily life basis, is appreciated by our mind. Mind experiences happiness. Sukhadivattarhi grihyeta. Grihyeta is to say, possibly Brahma is grasped by the mind, if not through Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. Antakarane vijnanam bhavet. Antakaranena Brahma grihyeta. Grihyeta means grahanam bhavet. And the Upanishad says, Ataha aha no manaha. No, not even the mind. Let me once more say it refers to those 9,999 modes of operation of the mind. Na sukhadivat manasaha vishayaha tataha indriya avishayatvat. So for both indriyas and for mana, it is not vishaya, it's not the object. Na vidmaha, na vijanimaha, antakarane. And this is further explained. First of all, na vidmaha, na vijanimaha is because to just to indicate the utter subtlety of it. How can we convey this to students? That means it is beyond the usual operation of speech. You may describe everything else through jati, guna and kriya. Jati means this is a cow, that is a parrot, this is a human being, jati. Guna, this runs, that is stationary, this vibrates. Then kriya, again, some movement, other movements. Guna could be taste and so on, let us say. Kriya is movement, fast movement, vibration, and so on. So these 3 words are used to indicate varieties of descriptions possible. Jati, guna, and kriya. About Brahma, none of them applies. Now, in some texts, the next part is made this 3rd mantra itself, but some other places it's a separate 4th mantra. We have taken it as 4th mantra. In the next slide, we have an interesting Upanishadic way of putting things. So we see that we can't put this Brahman either in the category of the known or in the category of the unknown. That's how the third, this mantra, fourth mantra we can say. But as I said, in some texts it is part of the third mantra. Third mantra is longer, taking this also within it. So we see the third slide, in which that, call it the fourth mantra or call it the second part of the third mantra. The title here goes, where does the self belong? Is it among things known or is it among things unknown? To this camp or the other? Anyadeva tad viditad. It's other than the known. Atho aviditad adhi. It's other than the unknown also. This is very mind-boggling. You can neither put it in the box of known nor in the box of unknown. First, we think that anything in this universe, outside or inside, should either be known or be unknown. But we see that this is the knowing principle. The knowing principle is behind all knowledge. It's neither the known nor the unknown, it's the knower. And the teacher very humbly says, this is what we have heard from our acharyas. Iti shushruma, we heard, we learnt, we listened to teachers. Those teachers, ye, who, yacha chakshire, taught it all to us. And Shankara makes a couple of nice comments on this. We see that and close this session. Some selections. We may want to go a little more into this in the next class also. But for now, Vidita aviditabhyam anyat. Other than the known and the unknown, yohi gnata sa eva sa. Gnata, the knowing principle. The knowing principle empowers the mind to know a certain things. They are the known. And in some context or because of some karma, whatever, certain minds do not know certain things, or the same mind does not know certain things. Like your mind. Your mind knows 5 languages, but there are 50 other languages which your mind doesn't know. So the 5 languages you know are in Vidita, known. The 50 languages you do not know are in the camp called Avidita. So where does Brahma come? Brahma is the light that empowered you to know the 5 languages, and for some reason your karma, Brahma did not empower or enable you to know the other 50. So the other 50 belong to the camp of the unknown. Brahma itself doesn't either belong to the box of the known or the box of the unknown. Ataha sarvatmanaha jnatuhu. Brahma is the pure principle of knowing that empowers knowledge anywhere. Sarvatmanaha jnatuhu. Wherever knowledge takes place, it is the jnata. Jnatuhu is the sixth case of jnata. About this knower, of this knower, then comes Natra Antara Abhava. Wherever some knowledge took place or is taking place, there is no other knower going to the depth of the matter than the pure self. Natra Antara, by Sandhi it becomes Natrantara. If you have printed text, we split this Sandhi. Natra plus Antara, Natrantara, Yan Sandhi they call it. So you have not, there is no other knower. You know Telugu and somebody in Spain knows Spanish. The knower deep behind, you are knowing Telugu and behind that person knowing Spanish. And the knowing principle behind somebody in Chicago knowing some advanced matter of nuclear physics. Is there another Natra there? Vedanta's answer is, on that deep level, The Nata, the knower, the knowing principle is the same. There is Natra Antara, another knower doesn't exist. The knower behind the Chicago scientist. In Chicago, there is a famous laboratory, Fermi Lab. Or in Germany, there are several centers. Planck Institute. Max Planck was a great physicist, right? India, we have C.V. Raman Institute in Bangalore and named upon great scientists there are. So some scientist in Chicago has knowledge of something. He has been working in the famous Fermi lab for many years. Somebody in Telangana knows so much about Telugu language. Somebody in Spain has gathered so much knowledge of literature of Spanish. But the Natra is one only. There is no Natrantara, one more. See, Desha means country. Deshantara means another country. There is no another knower. There is only one knower in all these fellows, people, personalities knowing this or that. And therefore, this one knower, let us say this and conclude, that one knower in all contexts and scenarios of knowledge can never belong to the camp of the known or the unknown. Therefore, viditat anyatvam, aviditat anyatvam, and so on. We will reflect on both these mantras a little more because Shānkarabhāshya also has some more gems of insights. Let's not hurry up simply going ahead. A few more gems of insight which can go a long way in our understanding the pure self will be taken up in the next class. Om Namah Paramarishibhyo Namah Paramarishibhyaha.